Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Sirach
Uh-oh.
Lofton.
Are we on?
Yes, we are. And we are joined by a very special guest, director Kim Friedman. How are you?
It's good to see you, Kim.
Kim, can you hear us?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Fantastic. So
I can hear you, but yes. Sirach looks frozen, but go ahead.
So, Sirach, do you feel frozen or do you feel good?
Hello?
I felt frozen earlier,
now
but
I
now
can see
I don't feel so frozen
he
anymore.
seemed frozen, but he's...
So, Kim, we are so excited to have you on the show because you've directed a ton of Star Trek. You've just directed Deep Space Nine episodes, Voyager episodes, and I believe our good friend and associate producer, Miss Anne-Marie Seagull, first contacted you, right?
Yeah, she did. Yeah. Just I got this thing on, I don't know if it was a tweet or Instagram, and I thought, oh, wow, Deep Space Nine. Wow, I haven't heard that in a while. Yeah, I got to. So I contacted her and just thought it was, just like a fun thing. I had no idea this was going on for this podcast. This is great.
Yeah. And she said that it was all revolved around the fact that we had just released our review episode of The Wire, which you so masterfully directed. And you said that may have been your favorite Star Trek episode. Is that right?
Yes. There were two favorites, The Wire and the Jem'Hadar. They were my two favorite episodes. Can I talk to you a little bit why The Wire was my favorite too? I really liked doing the action stuff, which was like the Jem'Hadar one. And that was more in the Jem'Hadar one. But The Wire was really a challenge. And I used to call it, among my friends, not on the set so much, we're doing Shakespeare in space. Because the writers, they were wonderful. They wrote these like soliloquies and wonderful scenes that would be in a Shakespeare play. And I suddenly was confronted with this episode with really not much action. I mean, Garak overturns the table. There's one scene where he gets angry, but there's really no action. They're just talking through the whole episode. All the characters, Garak's talking, they're talking about Garak, Quark's talking about Garak, they're doing exchanges. And so that was a challenge because how do you keep it lively? And I watched it again this afternoon because it was 100 years ago that I did it. And when I watched it, I was actually quite impressed that I got the actors moving as much as I could and the camera moving with such an interior kind of story, and where it was really more about the acting and the words, but yet I had to keep it visually moving somewhat or people would fall asleep, they wouldn't watch it.
Right.
So, yeah.
So how do you do that? Do you do that by making, I'm sorry. Do you do that by making, do you do that by keeping the action moving, as you were saying? Do you do that by having movement, by creating movement within the scene and having actors move around, or?
Yes. And in fact, in The Wire, it was interesting that it brought back all these memories because, again, it was a very long time ago. But I remember thinking, oh, shit, how am I going to really, visualize this story? So one of the things that I did on this episode, I did it on several episodes, is I came in on the weekend. And I think I brought a friend. I brought my husband and my little daughter at the time, who was a baby. And literally walked through all of the scenes and sort of walked through each character and really choreographed a lot of things that, might have come organically anyway from the actors on the set, but I couldn't take a chance on that. I had to choreograph it first. So I choreographed a lot of the actors' movement to a degree, a very large degree, maybe 85% on this. And so that when the actors came on the set, I had a definite ground plan, like people would move and then I'd have someone waiting by a doorway so that as soon as one left the scene, the other just ran up and joined the scene. And also, I had to choreograph the camera. There's a wonderful camera move when they're doing something in the infirmary to Garak. And that was more, he was just lying there, so I couldn't have anybody move. But I did it with the camera, just an interesting shot with the camera. But I did remember that I knew that I couldn't, in that sense, they were doing medical equipment. So I could follow the medical equipment in a very interesting visual way. But when people are just talking and the words are important, I didn't want the camera jumping around. I wanted to hear the scene and the story. So I had to create the movement with the actors. And they were great because everyone just said, okay, fine, we'll do it. And, there would be a scene going on and then someone would have to wait sort of off camera and then jump in at the right moment. And they were terrific.
We had, as you saw, we had Mr. Andy Robinson who played Garrick. That's all I wanted to hear. Right there was that. Well, that's exactly where I was going.
Thank heavens that that episode, which was a lot of words and not a lot of action, it was interior and monologues. Thank heavens it was Andrew doing it.
Yeah.
Because the actors were fabulous on the show. There wasn't a bad actor on the show. I mean, one by one, the principals, the guest stars were all incredible. Andrew was just insanely good at making it very human through all the makeup and through all the stuff. He was a trained actor. I knew him in New York a little bit, and he did Shakespeare, he did other things, and he was able. I think Rene Auberjonois also had this through all of this, the makeup and the special effects. He was able to project this incredible humanity, and it was great because here was this alien, but you could really feel for him. In other words, the makeup and the mask didn't play him. He came through and he used it. So thank heavens, Andrew and Garrick was one of the main characters in that, as was Armin Clark. Oh my God, was incredible actor. So I got lucky. I also got lucky because the actors on the show, as you know, were great.
It looks like I'm looking at your IMDb right now, and it was not your first Deep Space Nine episode. So you had worked with them before, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I actually don't remember. I never look at my IMDb. You probably know more about me than I do right at this point. Yeah.
I know it's 25 years ago, but do you remember being a little bit nervous about, oh man, this is going to be with this specific episode, The Wire, thinking this is a very actor heavy and line heavy,
No, I'm from the theater. Was a theater director in New York for a long time. So I was never nervous about the acting beats in it or getting the performances from the actors. And again, I was lucky because the actors would come very prepared and really ready to go. They and emotionally too, not just out on the lines. But I wasn't nervous about the acting. What I was nervous about was, again, how to create, because you have Deep Space Nine, you have this wonderful set, incredible set, and people are used to seeing a lot of activity and motion in the set. So my thing was, how do I keep the story compelling and really focused on the actors, but still, as I said, keep it visually interesting and exciting so that people will stay with it. So that's what, if anything, that's what I was nervous about, and the nerves made me over prepare. I always am incredibly prepared, but that made me over prepare. Yeah.
I have a question for you, and it's really based about the fact that as far as I can remember, you're the only woman that was consistently brought on to direct episodes of Deep Space Nine that I can remember.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell you something about the women thing. First of all, I have to give a little shout out that it was wonderful that Paramount hired me to do action at that point because nobody was hiring women directors. Right. And there had been another woman director before me, a wonderful director by the name of Gabrielle Beaumont. He's passed away since. And I understand that when she was on the set, it was a very kind of, I'm not sure if it was Deep Space Nine or it was an earlier Star Trek, but there had been a problem. The crew was not accepting of a woman director. And when I came aboard, the director of photography came up to me and told me, I had already heard about the incident. There had been a very bad incident on the set with her being made fun of. And he told me about it. And he said, I want to clear the air. He said it was wrong and it won't happen again. And so when I came to the set, I found everyone really with the exception of one or two people, I have to say there's always one or two, very, very with it. And also, I think it also helped that I had worked with Nana Visitor before in the theater, so I knew her. And I think Renee knew of my work in New York in the theater. So I came with some credentials that they liked. And there was, I feel terrible about this. There was a woman executive at Paramount, and I looked for her and I couldn't find her name at the end of the credits. And she was the one responsible for hiring me. And she was an executive at Paramount, a woman. I'll try to remember her. I don't remember her name right now. But at any rate, so I had heard what had happened before, but I was used to breaking barriers. I mean, I was the first woman director on lots of sets. So my thing was, I'm going to do my work. I know I do good work. I love working with actors. I love the camera. Take it or leave it. I'm there to do my job. And I try to do my job. And sometimes you have to put blinders on. You want an instance? Do you want an instance? I'll give you an instance. Okay, good. When we were doing I think and I hope I'm not getting the title wrong. I think the title was the Jem'Hadar episode, although I may be just calling it that.
No, we're reviewing it in a couple weeks. We're going to be reviewing that one, and it is called the Jem'Hadar.
And I think it had a huge scene in the control room where they were being attacked. And I was a big believer of handheld and no stops when you do kind of action like that. And I wanted the camera to be off, handheld, and whipping around the set. I wanted people to almost get seasick. And the camera operator, in a very sexist, chauvinistic mood, said, "No, I don't want to do. I don't want to do it that way." This was during prep, and he decided not to come in the day we shot that, which, by the way, is one of the most incredible scenes that I have ever directed. But the good news was we got a substitute cameraman on the Paramount lot.
I'm scared of where this is going for that poor guy that made the wrong move.
Too bad. No, nothing. Yep. He came back afterwards, and I worked with him afterwards. I mean, I think he's an asshole, but other than that, but no, and I worked with him after that, and we were fine. We were pleasant, but we got a feature film cameraman, and God, again, I don't know his name. He was the cameraman for a lot of, he was the operator for a lot of big feature DPs. Again, I can't remember his name. Maybe someone who's watching this will figure out his name on the thing. He came in, I told him my plan, because I had, by the way, it wasn't just I wanted to take the camera and follow actors. I had choreographed every single move of the scene. I literally choreographed. Marvin Rush. No, Marvin was the cinematographer. He was the director of photography, not the camera operator.
Sorry. Chris Costco was the camera operator.
No, he didn't come. Chris didn't come that day. It was the substitute camera operator that came, and he's a big feature camera operator. I cannot remember his name.
Joe Chess.
I don't remember.
We're going to keep throwing names at you. Okay. Sorry, go on.
All I can tell you is he came in. I had choreographed literally about 30 actors, maybe 40 actors and extras all through it myself. I came in with my own camera and choreographed the whole thing. I walked through it once, told him what I wanted, and I thought, God help us. Am I going to get flack again? And he said, I love it. He took the camera off the dolly, and he went around. He did what I wanted and more. He did my choreography and more, and it was incredible. And in fact, that scene I used to get many more jobs in Hollywood.
Really?
Yeah, because it was an incredible action scene. Yeah, and people loved it, and it was handheld, and it was wonderful. And yeah, so I owe that camera operator a lot of work, actually. He got me a lot of work. Yeah, I remember he said, this is awful.
Hopefully you got him a lot of work too.
Well, I think he already had a lot. I think he was a big deal feature camera operator and just did it as a favor to Marvin, I think, who knew he was on the lot, at Paramount. He was probably prepping a feature. So yeah.
But one thing I remember you distinctly. We have a lot of episodes that we review where I don't remember the director, but you have always remembered, and you've left an impact and an impression on me. And the thing that I remember most is how well prepared you were. And you are now describing the level of thought that you put in beforehand as far as choreographing things and coming on the weekends and, really thinking things out. And I think that preparation is why people respected you so much, because they knew that you weren't just making it up on the fly.
Oh, no.
That you knew what you were doing, that you were prepared. You had your notes, you had your books, you were, checking to see, is it going according to plan? And,
you're right. You noticed that. I always had my shot list, and I was like sweating it out to get this done in time. Yeah.
And I also remember meeting your daughter, who was, I don't know, 5 or 6 at the time.
It was 4 or 5. I don't remember.
Yeah, really small. And you brought her along with your husband to the set. And I'm sure she's now a beautiful young woman who's grown over the years. Well,
she's married. She just got married.
Congratulations.
A few months ago. And she is a writer, a wonderful writer. And she wrote a best-selling book, New York Times bestseller, called Mother Can You Not, which is a little about me.
A little?
A little?
A little. And we actually have an Instagram thing. It's her Instagram site. The book came out of, she started publishing things that I would send her on Instagram, and it's called Crazy Jewish Mom. And we have like it's her site. She has 700,000 followers, and I don't understand why, but they all are like, I could send her my grocery list, and she puts it up there, and they follow it. I have no idea why.
They go nuts for it.
Yes, I have no idea. I mean, it's just, it's her thing. So.
All right, so we've got to follow this Instagram account.
Oh yes,
find
Crazy
out your grocery
Jewish
list.
Mom. I have 2, Crazy Jewish Mom, and then my own account, Kim Friedman NYC. But
got it.
Yeah, go follow Crazy Jewish Mom. It's nuts.
Oh wow, I like that.
Yeah.
I really want to say that I'm so sad. I keep reading about different people that have passed away from the Star Trek, that family, and it really it keeps, even though it was a long time ago. I've done hundreds of episodes of television, and I'm retired now. I left LA because my daughter went to New York. She went to college, and she said she was going to stay in New York. And I thought, you know what? It's time. I'm ready for a new challenge. But of the hundreds and hundreds of episodes that I did, there are not that many not that many shows that stand out. And I would say that there's probably 2 or 3 actual shows that I have really intense memories of. And Deep Space Nine is absolutely one of them. And the other thing about Deep Space Nine, I just wanted to say something about the set design.
Yeah.
The set on Deep Space Nine, that main, multi-level control room was it was insane. It was, I don't think I don't think in my whole career I was ever on a set that incredible. And not just the control room, the hallways, everything. It was beautiful visually, and it was like a director's dream. I mean, I didn't think it was a bad angle on the set. Yeah, it was really pretty incredible. So kudos to the set designers, because it was really, really fabulous.
We do talk about that sometimes because I've never seen it in person, and Sarak saw it once or twice in person, I think. And we would talk about how, like, as a fan, when I'm looking at it and I'm seeing all this attention to detail, and I was asking Sarak, like, was that attention to detail like always all over the place, or was it just, when something was going to get shot? And he said, basically the whole thing was just built. It was just one giant, perfectly ready, beautiful set.
It was there when I first knew that I was going to be directing it. And I obviously I wanted to look at the set. I walked in and I truly was floored, because I thought, like what you just said, oh, well, maybe it was just certain angles were shot to make it look right. But that main control, the main, room was just 3 stories. It was like they had done a space station, suddenly on the thing. Now other sets were somewhat smaller, but it was the reactor room was incredible. I mean, there's some of the the sets were incredible, and they were very large. And I think it would be hard, they'd be hard put in today's world to have those kind of sets. It would all be green screened and blue screened and purple screened and whatever screen. Yeah, I don't think you would. I don't think you're going to get the budget for that too many times anymore. Because it was, by the way, it was hard construction. Those modules and those tables, they were all set in place, and the different levels and the steps. It was pretty incredible.
It's functional.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you had all the quarters. You had the promenade. You had the main ops, which is what you're talking about, the control center.
The promenade was incredible.
Yeah, the promenade was, the details were amazing. And so, that was one of the things that really, they spared no expense on that set. The airlocks, the hallways. I mean, even in the main ops, that elevator was functional. So you could rise up from the bottom.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
and the hallways were long. I mean, the hallway wasn't like, I mean, you didn't have to like go in a hallway and then fake it on a second in the same hallway. And they were big, long hallways, which was good because Ira and all the writers, they were writing big, long monologues. So,
so you gotta walk down all this stuff.
Oh yeah, I was really happy for the hallways because that would help as a director to keep the scene moving, to keep you moving and walking and talking, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah. Oh my God! I hope I don't.
What got you into directing? What made you want to become a director?
Okay, now that's that no one has ever asked me that question. I've been interviewed so many times. No one's ever asked me that. Okay,
wow.
I was a singer when I was a kid, junior high, high school. I was a singer, and I guess I was in college, and I went to NYU for English and theater, and it dawned on me, probably because I was not that bright, that I wasn't as good as Barbra Streisand. And I thought, well, if you're not as good as Barbra Streisand, why bother? I mean, really, it really was that kind of thing. And so, of course, I love theater. And the more I got into it, and I acted, because you're majoring in English and theater, you're going to act in college, but I never enjoyed the acting because I was always saying, why don't we do it this way? Or why don't we do it this way? Or why don't we walk here? And so it dawned on me. Hello. And so I went to England for a summer of seeing theater, and I saw everything. I saw Olivier and As You Like It. I just went for an entire summer. It was a summer program from some Canadian university that I went on, and we saw the play every day for 2 months. And then got to talk to the director and producer. And I came back to NYU and I said, okay, I'm directing. And they said, where are you going to direct? And I went to the student union, and there was a fraternity house that was closed down. And I said, you got to give me this. We're going to put a theater in here. And I started doing plays in this that's how I started. I started doing plays in this old fraternity house that we converted to a little black box theater. And then I went to the Tisch School for actual directing. And that was it. And then I worked for Joe Papp at the New York Shakespeare Festival. That's he gave me my first big break, and so that was my first professional thing. Yeah, that's how.
Yeah,
but I always wanted to do, though, believe it or not, television, movies, LA, and so the whole time I was directing in theater, I had this urge, and I finally one day went to Joe Papp and I said, were you going to kill me? I want to apply to this program at the American Film Institute, but I'm actually afraid to ask you for a letter of recommendation, because you helped me. And he said, oh, absolutely, I will. And I got into the American Film Institute. And you know what he did? Joe Papp was such a great guy. I actually was directing a play at the time for him. And he gave me, this big box appeared one day at my door, and I opened the mail, opened the box. There was another box and another box. And he gave me my first film camera. It was a film. It was actually like a Super 8 or something, which was so great. It was really great. So that's how I got started.
And it's completely different too. I mean, sorry to interrupt you, Ryan, but they're different. I mean, when you talk about theater and stage, and now you're doing television and film,
right?
It's a big transition, right?
It was, you know what? Yes, it was. Why I'm laughing is the American Film Institute was great, but we really didn't do film. We did like little videos, and I learned a little bit. I learned a little bit, but and I got into it. But really, I learned on the job. And my first job was Mary Hartman, where unfortunately for probably the actors and the crew, I was learning on the job. And I did something like 55 episodes or something. And Louise Latzer, who was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and totally crazy, totally off a rocker, as everyone knew, and also brilliant. So I did like 55 or 65 episodes, and Norman Lear hired me. He took a chance. I observed. What I did was I went on the set, and I observed. I have to tell you a funny story. Norman Lear, I went to an interview with Norman Lear, and I drove up in my old 56 Chevy, and they wouldn't let me on the lot on Gower. So I had to park on the street, walk in, went into Norman Lear's office, and I got the job because he had seen a Shakespeare play that I had directed. I mean, I got the interview. And I went in for this interview, and I said, you need to hire me. And I told him all the actors I'd worked with in New York. And he literally said to me, you're hired. You're going to follow me around for the next 2 months. I thought, this is bullshit. This is not going to happen. Next thing I knew, he said, start work Monday morning. And at 5 a.m, I went to his house and literally followed him through everything. And at the time he was doing 11 sitcoms. And so I just went around from sitcom to sitcom, didn't say a word, just followed him and, took notes. And then I went on Mary Hartman for another 6 weeks to watch. And by the way, he paid me because I said, you don't have to pay me. I'll do this for free. I'll waitress at night. He said, no. I'm paying you because then it's a real job. So he paid me for all this observing time. He's an amazing man. And then he hired me for Mary Hartman, and I wound up doing like 50 some episodes. And it was hard though. Still, I learned on the job.
The great Norman Lear, who's given us a number of classic television shows over the years. One of the best in the business.
Great writer too. I was marveling at him. He would go from literally, one day we would hit maybe three different run-throughs of shows from 3 different sitcoms, and he would rewrite whole scripts. Or I'd come in the morning and we'd have rewritten himself 2 or 3 scripts, and that we were going to go then see the new rehearsals of the next day. He was an unbelievable writer. And so Bud Yorkin also was wonderful too. Bud is the person who actually, I had done a Shakespeare play for Peg Yorkin, Bud Yorkin's wife in LA, and they got me the interview with Norman. So yeah.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah, Norman was incredible. Norman was incredible. Peg Yorkin was incredible. Bud Yorkin. They're the reason that I got started in directing. Peg hired me to do Shakespeare in LA, Shakespeare in the Park, and then dragged her husband, Bud Yorkin, to see it, who was a partner of Norman on certain shows. And Bud got me into Norman, and that was it. So that was really great. The first film show I did was Family, long time ago, way before you two were born, I think, probably. Seda Thompson and Christine McNichols. And that
1978 to 79.
Thank you. That was really hard because it was the first film show. And again, I observed with a wonderful director named Richard Kynan. He's passed away, Dick Kynan. Wonderful director. He had been an art director before. He had been around the business forever. He had worked on very famous movies. He had been a script supervisor and an art director. And he was a wonderful director. I was so lucky that they put me with him to observe. They hired me to do an episode, but said, you have to come and observe for a while. I said, oh, believe me, I won't do this without observing. And so I observed. And that was probably the hardest thing I ever had to do in my whole life, because learning film was difficult. That was a bigger it was an easy transition from theater to videotape 3 camera. But then to actual film set and learning the camera and everything. But the people were, Emil Oster, another man who has passed away. Emil Oster and a wonderful camera operator named Dick Hanna. They taught me everything I knew about film. I mean, I literally, by the end of that, could almost load a film camera. And I get up on that camera and do the wheels. And they literally taught me everything. And we had no video assist then. So they also taught me my eye for the camera. We know video assist. They trained me wonderfully, because I rarely looked at the video monitor even after they came out, because
really
I knew, well, if there was an explosion or something like that and we had 3 cameras going, of course I would. But No, I mean, I could tell with my eye when an actor went off camera. I mean, and certainly the operator could too, obviously but I could tell when someone went off camera or something because I had trained my eye really well. I think it's great to have video assist. It's even better because the script supervisor, other people can, like, you might miss something, which is great. But yeah, Emil Oster was the cinematographer, wonderful, wonderful cinematographer. He also had been a feature cinematographer for years. And Dick Hanna was his operator. And they basically taught me everything, how to shoot film, how to load a Mitchell camera, everything.
Wow. Now, Kim, we've just got a minute or two left. I did want to point out a few credits that most people will definitely recognize, like The Love Boat, A Different World, Life Goes On, Dynasty, right? Babylon 5, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Beverly Hills 90210, Lizzie McGuire, all kinds of fun things. But
and LA Law,
right? LA Law, I saw that one too. Yeah. But all the nerds, I can hear the nerds screaming in my ear right now because I'm one of them. They want to know if you noticed a difference between directing Deep Space Nine and directing Voyager. If there was any difference, or was it all pretty much just directing Star Trek? It's all just people. It's just aliens.
Totally different. Totally different between Voyager and Deep Space Nine. And love, of course, Captain Janeway. Love her to death. Love it. I mean, the cast was wonderful. Here's the big difference. There was a drive in Deep Space Nine. I can't describe it. That you were always fighting someone. You were meeting someone. There was a new alien on the ship. Something much harder on Voyager because they were kind of just in their own long journey. That never seemed to end, And so it was a big difference. To me, there was a little bit of an energy lacking, not in the actors and not in the writing, just in the basis of the show of Voyager, because they had this just long journey home, and they did have encounters with other things, but not as much as on Deep Space Nine. So I think it was very different.
Interesting. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, we do have to run, Kim, but my goodness, this was a lot of fun. And we're so happy to hear that you had connected with Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, who is one of our favorite humans too.
I can't wait for you to look at the Jem'Hadar. I'm going to go look at it now.
I can't wait to see it either.
Yeah.
Actually,
I know we're going to be watching that fight scene, right, Sirach?
I'm going to be looking for the fight scene.
Yeah, the ship is being. I think this is the one where the ship is being attacked.
Right. And I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
That's so. I think that there was a part 1 and part 2, and I'm not sure which one I did. Actually, I think I only did one half of it. I mean, I did part 1, and then someone.
If I remember correctly, what you did was the Jem'Hadar, which was the final episode of the second season that we're going to be reviewing in a couple of weeks, and it tied into the first episode of the third season, which you also directed, and that was the search part 1. That was the search part 1, but you did not direct the search part 2. So that's what you're thinking of.
I see. Yeah, you believe me, you're much more up on this than I am.
I'm just looking at it online while we're recording.
But I think it should really be said that, Kim, you were really a pioneer as a woman in this field that's really male dominated. You stood your ground. You made excellent work, and I believe that a lot of women out there should take a lesson from you as far as being fearless and chasing your dreams and not being afraid to do what you want to do.
That is very nice for you to say. And I want to say to any women watching out there, no matter whether you want to be a director or a lawyer or a surgeon or a politician, whatever you want to be, you can put blinders on. Put your blinders on, like a horse has blinders in a race, right? Put your blinders on. Just go out, do your work, do what you believe in, and you'll be fine. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know
why. Thank you for having me.
I don't know why she calls you the crazy Jewish mom. That didn't sound crazy to me at all. It sounded great.
look at me Instagram. You'll see.
Well, then we'll see the evidence.
Wait till you see the grocery list.
Yeah.
Exactly. With her, I do get when you have a daughter, mother's daughters, we're a little crazy. It just is. Anyway, thank you again for having me. This was wonderful.
Thank you so much, Kim. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again real soon, hopefully. And be safe out there. You're stuck in New Jersey. I know that's insane, but
I'm down south, so I'm a little bit away from it, but it's really bad here.
Be safe and take care of yourself. Yeah.
I will. You too, guys. And by the way, everybody, I'm just not saying this for fun. This is for real. Truly, wash your hands. Leave your groceries outside. Don't bring the bags inside. Wipe everything with Fantastic and stuff. We here in the East Coast are really getting it, and it's really important to do that. Okay?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay. Will do.
Live long and prosper.
I love it.
Thank you all very much. And for those of you at home,
bye-bye.
Always remember the 7th rule.